Hello sports fans, Mauricio here. So now I'm going to show you the code and do my best to explain it to you. And this is a more advanced version of saving data. Saving line items. It has more error checking and it handles the problem of, hey, I want to add more units to an existing line item. But yet we have to check, okay, you may want 100, but how many do we have in stock? And we better just sell you what we have in stock, not the 100, and gracefully reduce the 100 to whatever we have in stock, whatever they wanted to whatever we have. The next extension would be, let's talk about back orders. Let's get your money today for a product we'll deliver tomorrow. So it's our procedure, use go create procedure as. There's our input variables. Here's our local variables needed to do the functioning. So first thing I wanted to show is you have a begin, and if I scroll down to the bottom, we have an end. And so I'm using indenting to show that all of this code is within the begin end. And then all of the rest of this is inside that begin end. And then you may have individual sections of begin end. So you have an if statement and then a begin end. If statement, begin end. If statement, begin end. If you forget one of your ends, it's going to throw some errors someplace else and you're going to not understand it. So indenting is your friend. How many times should I say that? Times 100. Begin, end, and all of these are attempts at error checking. All right, so this is a pretty good one to talk about. If sales is greater than 0, if sales is 0, so that's the number of units. So if there's many prior sales, because we're counting the rows, then do this code. If So I know sales ID is a funny variable to use here, but we're setting that variable. So we're using it to hold the count of rows, but then we're changing the value within it. Set it. So we're changing the value of this variable that's being used to hold the number of rows. So if the program's never been used before, the number of rows is 0. All right, and if they said, okay, it's true, it's a new sale, all right, then sales set it to 1. If it's false, if there's no sales, if there's no prior sales, no line items yet, the program is brand new, never been used before, you guys are implementing it. If there's no sales, but the customer used false, or the employee used false, is it a new sale false? And that's probably the wrong answer. So we need to change, stop them and then change it. All right, so we have been using this program, and it's got its own begin and end. So these two should line up. I mean, they kind of look like they're lining up. Yeah, I guess they're lining up. So this is a begin end for this if statement. You gotta be real careful about this. If you have a begin, you have to have an end. If you have a begin, you have to have an end. So this is a nested if statement. So this if sale is true, if sale is false is nested inside the other if statement. So in both of these cases, there are sales. We counted them up, and there's 10 or 20 or whatever, more than 0. So if there are sales, well, now we have to, within that, is it true that it's a new sale? Then go get the highest number and add 1 to it. If it's not a new sale, we're just adding line items to the same sale. So go get the sales ID number for the highest, the most recent, and we're continuing to add to that invoice. So That's a nested if statement. It's got its own begin and its own end. So if the code is just a one-liner, you often don't need a begin end. So this if doesn't have its own begin end. It's just a one-liner. But once you start getting all complex, then it's very, very smart to have a begin end. And so this is new. This is a new. If you've never coded that much in SQL, this is different, right? All right. So if it's not a new sale, we'll go get the sale ID and get the maximum and set it there. All right, now let's check if the program user actually changed the customer ID number, and I demonstrated that this works. So go get the customer ID from the sales table for the most recent invoice. So on the most recent invoice, what was the customer ID? Set it into this local variable. If that local variable is different than the variable just passed in now, and stop. So that's an if statement that we only want to use and run if it's a sale that we're just adding rows to. So when we're adding rows, we might have several. If it's a new invoice, we may not have. If it's a new invoice, we're just going to check that the customer ID is one of the valid customers, enforcing referential integrity. But if we're adding more line items to an existing invoice, we also want to check. Well, we're not going to check is the customer ID valid. We want to make sure that it's the same one. We've already checked that it's valid. We want to make sure. Where for them and where? Up here. Well, further down, we check that it's valid. But here we're checking that it's the same. So maybe this code can also be condensed, but keeping, you can only have so many nested levels, and that's how when people lose sleep. So I wouldn't use too many nested levels, but in this case I had to. So we're trying to solve a problem. So you gotta do what you gotta do to solve the problem. All right. So if they happen to type the wrong customer ID number, stop them, and give them a polite error message. But you see, everything is indented, begin, end. About the customer ID number, begin, end, to set the ID, the sales ID number, and do this other code. And all of this only happens if it's not a new line item. So we're checking things, and all of that happens if there are line items in the sales detail table. It's not the first time I ever used this thing. All right, so I already explained this part. So we're checking the customer ID and the product ID that they're valid. So again, here we're checking, does that customer exist? The customer you typed in, is it in? Whoa, sorry. The customer you typed in, does it exist? If it does, everything's good. If it doesn't, stop. That product you typed in, does it exist? If it does, everything good. Otherwise, stop. Return. Stop. Exit. All right, then we're going to check the stock. And all of this code is running before we see if the product was on the line item. So right away, if there's no stock, then stop the program. All right, now we're starting. So now either we're going to update the line item and add more items, or do an insert. So this if exists so if the product is already on the line item, all this code between the begin and the end is going to run. So there you go. Begin and end. All of that code is going to run, and all of that code runs. All of this code runs if it's existing line item. Uh, then you have another section. What if it's not on the line? What if it's not a pre-existing line item? Then all of this code runs between the begin and the end. So you use begin and end to make sure all the code runs and put it in its own block, and you really need to use these. Alright, so if it exists, well, how many units are already on the order? And then we have to go calculate, do we have enough stock? If we have enough stock, then go ahead and change the units, update it to the total number, the quantity that was, and now we're going to add the units that are that they want. So if there's not enough stock, then just sell what you have and add it to what's already on the invoice. Otherwise, sell them what they want. And so we're providing a message, that we don't quantity of stock. You want 100, but you only have 10. So give them a message. That's not an error, but we're letting them know. And they only get that message if the quantity in stock is less than the total. All right, so then here's a nice update statement. Go, for that line item on our current invoice and that product, go set the units to what it should be. And so we increased it here, put it in a local variable, and then use that local variable. All right, so that updated the line item on the invoice. Don't you have to go update the products table? Yes. So you do a similar calculation. If we don't have enough in stock, then we're going to sell them all we have, the quantity in stock, and then use that in the update set statement. If we have plenty in stock, then whatever units they want, sell it to them. And so the units, the unit or the quantity in stock value are assigned to this local variable, and that local variable is used in this update statement. And so this case statement is used to set a local variable either to the quantity stock or the total amount that they wanted. And I found that it kind of a logical way to handle this problem. Here we're still getting the sales price, but we're up. So if they want to add more to a line item, it's update. It's not insert update. Update the sales details, update the products table. If the product that they want to buy is not on the invoice, well, that's just our standard insert and update. So insert to the sales details table, update the product's inventory, and we'll handle the updating of the customer when the invoice is closed, when we're done adding line items to it. All right, but again, we should tell them, if we don't have enough stock, we should tell them, hey, we are reducing, give them a message. We're selling you everything we have. On the other hand, if we do have enough stock, the quantity of stock is more than what they want, or just leave a message, we're selling you all we got. And then we could use that value, so units may be reduced in this quantity of stock, and then we're running our update using that units, but that units might be reset to this lower amount. So, but I wanted to show each section has its own begin end, and indenting is crucial to making all this comprehensible. And we'll see you next time.